Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome to a Books Beside My Bed video. If you're new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and if you're very familiar with the series, welcome back. As always, there is a little survey in the description if you would like to fill that in and give me feedback on my video. However, today we are going to talk about books, and I read 7 of those books between July 4th and July 10th. If you can hear the banging, unfortunately someone in the apartment block has decided that they want to do construction work this morning, and unfortunately I can't ask them to stop, and I need to film now. So we're just going to hope that it's not too bad and get on with this reading wrap up. So as I said, I read 7 things. I read a total of 1,913 pages, and my yearly reading total is 264 books. I'm going to start off with the 2 Psy Changeling books because these all have their own separate videos and I'm not going to talk about them for very long. So I reread Alpha Night, which is the 4th book in the Psy Trinity series and the 19th book in the Psy Changeling series overall. This is the final book before Last Guard comes out, and I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. This is going straight at the top of my reread pile for the Psy Changeling books for the future because I really love this. It is the story of Selenka Durov, who is the alpha of the Black Edge wolf pack in Russia. She is a total boss woman and I love her to pieces. And she has a mating at first sight with Ethan Knight, who is an arrow with a very tortured past. And once their mating bond kicks in, which is in like the first couple of chapters, Ethan is absolutely devoted to her. But things are not going great for Selenka's pack. One of her lieutenants has been killed, and so they need to figure out who is behind the murder. It was great. I loved it. Selenka and Ethan are really evenly matched in terms of personality and relationship dynamics, and it was just glorious. So this video will be out this week. Stay tuned, it's coming. I also reread Wild Invitation, which is the first anthology collection. This was a reread for me. I know I did read Wild Embrace earlier in the month, and I technically read these out of order, but it really makes no difference because these are novellas that you can pick up at any point in time. There are 4 novellas in here. They take place from prior to the start of the series all the way up to post book 10. I will have a separate video for this. They are small, quiet moments with different side characters that we've met throughout the series and sort of deepens their relationships, and this is a really great comfort read. It's also a good one to read at Christmas time because all of the stories sort of have a very loose Christmas theme to them. It's not in your face, but it is there. Coming into the non-Psy Changeling books, I did read Ringmaster by Brianna Hale. This was a buddy read with the people in the Taboo book club hosted by Temecka from Library of Tomes. It was suggested in one of the live shows that there was a whole bunch of us that needed to read the book, and so we buddy read it. This is an age gap contemporary romance story set against a circus troupe. We have Raya, who is 17 when the book starts, who has an abusive father, and she has enough and she runs away and she runs smack into Kale, who is the ringmaster for a traveling circus troupe who is passing through her town. She joins them in order to get away from her father, and Kale really takes her under his wing. Now he is 30 or 31 at this point. Nothing happens while Raya is underage, and in fact I thought for the majority of the book that the age gap romance was really respectfully handled and it didn't feel awkward at all. He is just very fiercely protective of her, as are many of the other members of the circus troupe. So overall I really enjoyed this book. There is one thing that really truly bothered me about the story, and I'm going to talk about it in the moment and I'll put spoilers on the screen, but you can always skip to the next book using the timestamps afterwards if you don't want to hear the spoiler. So the only thing that bothered me about this particular age gap story is that once they do finally have sex, Kale thinks about stopping to grab a condom, but then he doesn't do it. He doesn't talk to Raya about it. He doesn't mention anything. And Raya is this very innocent character. She has not had many close friends. She doesn't have people to talk to. So she knows about sex, but she's very innocent in all of this. And for some reason, it doesn't cross into her head that she could get pregnant by having sex. I don't know. Don't even get me started on that part, but sort of in context of her character, that makes sense. However, Kale actively thinks about the fact that he probably should use protection, but he doesn't do it, and he does it twice. He does get called out on it, and that was the one redeeming feature of this story, but it still bothered me because he is a grown-ass man, and he knows that she's young, and he deliberately didn't get involved with her while she was underage because she was young and she was innocent, and he still does this. So we were doing so well up to that point, but if you can get over that, it is not a bad story. And the circus environment was really fun, and I did really enjoy all of that. Communication and consent is key. That's all I'm going to say. Then I buddy read another book, and that was The Mistwalker by Regine Abel. This is the Mist book number 1. I was reading this with a whole group of wonderful people on Instagram where we've been reading weird and wacky KU romances. This story is set in a world where I think it's every month or every other month this mist appears in the world, and as this mist appears the entire world goes into lockdown. So everyone locks their doors, closes their windows, shuts out the outside world for 3 days while the mist is there, because within the mist walkers and the mist beasts roam. And if you're caught outside by the mist, then you'll either be seduced into going into the mist and never be seen again, or potentially bad things might happen. We open at the very beginning of one of these 3-day lockdowns with Jade and her sister in their house, and Jade is trying to lock down the house and her sister is sort of very haphazard about making sure everything is secure, and as a result Jade is exposed to the mist, and then she starts having these very erotic visitations by a mist creature and it freaks her out. She thinks she's going to go absolutely nuts, and then the lockdown ends and she's still there and she's fine, but she still has these dreams of this creature that visited her. And then once she actually leaves her house, she meets an artist known as Kazan, and they become quite close, and she becomes his muse for some paintings that he's putting together, which are all portraits of women with monsters. And we begin to see the relationship between Jade and Kazan and the Mistwalker, and it's a really interesting concept. You sort of get thrown into it, and there is a really cool concept around this world where people can dream wishes into being and dream nightmares into being. In some parts, I almost wish there was a little bit more world building, just because that's the sort of stuff that I really like. But it was a really interesting story, and once you hit the 50% mark, it almost becomes a little bit like a paranormal suspense story, which was really cool. And then I read the 3 books in the Relic series by Maz Madden, which are dinosaur-shifter stories, and they're hilarious. They are all romances. Maz Madden herself identifies as pansexual, and one of the stories does have pansexual representation in it. If you like Jurassic Park and you like dinosaurs and you like something that has lots of really funny pop culture references woven into it, you're gonna love these books. So the basic concept for this world is that at archaeological dig sites, some dinosaurs survived the extinction of the race by shifting into these tiny little critters that are then unearthed, and they can then shift forms from human to dinosaur. The idea being that in the past they could actually shift into many different forms, but now that they're in the future, they are sort of stuck between 1 or 2 forms. Montana, who is the head of the Relic group, has basically found a whole bunch of these dinosaur shifters and turn them into a family, and they work together, and what they try to do is they try to stop people from stealing fossils, and they try and return them to their natural home. So we start with Smash and Grab, which is the story of Dalton, who is a Utah raptor shifter, and he is sent out to prevent an oviraptor egg that has been discovered from being stolen. Along the way he ends up crossing paths with the paleontologist who is studying it, and they end up having to go on the run. So the story is the 2 of them on the run. They end up in a place where there's only 1 bed. Dalton is this very hyperactive, and I know I don't normally swear on my channel, but the only way to describe Dalton is a sassy little shit, and he's fantastic. He's my favorite character in the whole series because he just says whatever he thinks, and he's very impulsive. He has a bright pink mohawk, and he just dives into any situation, and poor Simon, who is the paleontologist, is kind of like, I don't know what's going on. What is happening here? So it's a really fun story as we get to know these characters, and through Dalton we get to know some of his brothers, and then there are 2 more books. So the second one is Sink or Swim. We have Baja, who is the grumpiest of grumps. He's a Spinosaurus, and he ends up stuck on a boat with a former fossil thief called Jackson, who is trying to help them recover a fossil that is about to be auctioned on this luxury cruise. Jackson is also a shifter, but they don't know what kind for the majority of the book. And as soon as they get onto this ship, Jackson introduces Baja as his fiancée, so you have a fake relationship, stuck on a boat, only 1 bed, lots of hijinks ensue. I don't know if I'd call Jackson the Sunshine, but it's almost like a Grumpy Sunshine story, and it was so much fun. And once you find out what Jackson is, it's really cool. And then the 3rd book in the series that I read was King and Queen, which is the story of Regal, who is sort of the IT tech guy for the Relic Hunters, and he is a Regaloceratops, and he's sent out to potentially retrieve a member of their kind, and it's not normally something that he would do, but everyone else is on holidays or out and about. Along the way he meets Blaze, who is a young guy who is trying to build his social media profile and platform by interviewing volunteers who work on dinosaur digs. They meet in a bar, they have a 1-night stand, they don't think they're going to cross paths again until Blaze live streams Regal in his dinosaur form fighting 2 other dinosaur shifters on a dig site in the middle of the night. And then they have to try and find these 2 dinosaurs because they're causing all sorts of mayhem, and it was just delightful. It was so fun in King or Queen as well because Blaze is also a drag queen, and there is a drag show in the story, and all of the characters dress up in drag, and it is perfect. It was so much fun. There are so many pop culture references just peppered through the story, and it's just so natural and so funny when they pop up. I honestly had the best time reading these books. From this week's reading experience, I would definitely say go and pick these up. They're all on KU and they were just so much fun. All right, so those are the books that I read this week. In the comments, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on picking them up in the future. Alternatively, feel free to let me know what you have been reading, or if you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a pink heart emoji in the comments. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.